So, a few days ago, a loving, intolerant leftist shot and killed Charlie Kirk, and the loving, intolerant left celebrated. Like, it's actually mind-boggling to me how they don't see how full of shit they are. You can't call conservatives violent when your side tried to shoot and kill the leading presidential candidate 2 times last year, shot and killed a random healthcare CEO, and celebrated after the fact, gunned down a good man in front of his wife and kids for committing the horrific crime of disagreeing with you. And that's not even to mention all the transgender school shooters, like Audrey Hale and the one that happened like 2 weeks ago. And they even admit in their manifestos why they're committing these horrific acts of violence. And then you have all the violence from the BLM riots, which killed dozens of people. And on top of all of that, they'll fight to the death to preserve the supposed right to abortion, the right to infanticide. Even if you don't think that, first trimester infants are human beings, I think by the time you get into the 3rd trimester, they pretty clearly are human beings. Once they're having their brains sucked out of their skulls by abortionists, now they would probably just have some lady take a pill to poison the children. But by the time you reach that point, we should be able to agree that this is murder, right? So, therefore, I find it very annoying when the left calls a right-wing murderous fascist or whatever. Because they're the ones going around killing their political enemies and also the unborn. They celebrate all this violence and encourage more of it. And they'll fight to the death for it. But you know what? We're the violent ones because we won't use their grammatically incorrect preferred pronouns. And then they'll doctor statistics to try and make themselves look better. Like, there's some study cited by, some CNN or MSNBC anchor that said that right-wingers were more likely to commit political violence. But it didn't count Audrey Hale shooting up a Presbyterian school and writing in her manifesto why she did it. And some fuckwad's gonna accuse me of making generalizations, so I just like to say, yeah, I am making a generalization. Generally, the left is more likely to commit political violence than people on the right. On a side note, it really pisses me off when people say don't make generalizations, because you have to make generalizations in order to have coherent thought. Every time you use the word society, you're making a generalization. Because what's society? It's a bunch of people. So if you say, society is mean to X group of people, you're making a generalization. So stop bullshitting me and telling me that every single generalization is bad. Some generalizations are stupid, and if this one is, then explain to me why. You can't just say, oh, that's a generalization, therefore it's bad. This is something that really pisses me off that a lot of people on the internet do, where they won't explain why a point is wrong, they'll just accuse the person of making it, of committing some sort of fallacy. I was once accused of committing the slippery slope fallacy because I said if the government started enforcing hate speech laws, then they would start policing forms of speech that aren't really hate speech. Which is, obviously true, because other countries have already done that. If you ever make an argument where one thing may lead to another, you're accused of committing the fallacy of cause and effect. But anyway, back to the main points. The reason this guy killed Charlie Kirk is because Charlie Kirk was effective, and he's probably also trying to intimidate other conservatives. The left doesn't have winning arguments, they have assassinations and threats. They have censorship and intimidation, which is why we can't be intimidated by them. After hearing about this, I've never been more motivated to oppose the left. I've never hated their political ideology so much. I can now confidently say that I would rather die than surrender to these scumbags. When you kill a man for speaking the truth, you aren't proving the truth wrong, you're proving yourself a coward. They can't prove chicks have dicks, okay? They're just obfuscating and intimidating. That's all they can do, is try and shut up their political opponents via murder. These people know they're dishonest hypocrites. They'll go from saying that you shouldn't judge anybody based on their beliefs to getting angry at some Korean guy for being a Christian. Because according to this guy, if you disagree with the traditional religion of your country, you're just a victim of colonization. Because nobody can freely choose to be a Christian. Nobody would. It's because they're somehow a victim or something. It's not like for the first 300 years of Christianity, it was illegal in the Roman Empire and people just chose it because they sincerely believed in it. It's not like the vast majority of Christians who have chosen to be Christian did it because they thought it was true and not because someone was forcing them to. No, if you believe in Christianity, you're a victim of colonization. Unless you're white, otherwise you're an evil piece of shit. According to these people. These people are so tolerant, loving, and open-minded, aren't they? These loving people, after you're assassinated while peacefully defending your beliefs, they'll say, you had it coming.
We don't know any of the full details of this. That we don't know if this was a supporter shooting their gun off in celebration, or so we have no idea about this. But following up what was just said, he's been one of the most divisive, especially divisive younger figures in this, who is constantly sort of pushing this sort of hate speech or sort of aimed at certain groups. And I always go back to hateful thoughts lead to hateful words, which then lead to hateful actions. And I think that's the environment we're in, that people just, you can't stop with these sort of awful thoughts you have and then saying these awful words and not expect awful actions to take place.
Matt.
And that's the unfortunate environment we're in.
And this sort of thing isn't as uncommon as we'd like to believe. One kid brought this up in class, and my blue-haired language arts teacher said that she didn't get why people cared so much about this, and that we should care about the school shooting that happened in Colorado instead. But that's just insane thinking. That's something you would only say if you really hated the person who got shot. Let's imagine that on the 10th, instead of a high-profile political debater was murdered, let's pretend that some random politically unaffiliated guy was shot and killed in a gas station. Would anybody be angry about that being brought up? Anytime a political assassination is carried out, people are going to talk about it, no matter who it is. But usually it's going to be a right-winger. The only reason you wouldn't want any political assassination to be brought up, even if something bad happened that same day, is because you don't want people talking about it because it doesn't look good for your side. If you're watching this right now, there's a decent chance someone you knew in high school or some other place is celebrating this shit right now. I, like many people, watched a Chris Hughes video where he said it's all a psyop, because everything's a psyop. This is what he had to say.
Real enemy to all of us, these entrenched people that you have nothing in common with whatsoever, who decide the narratives, they bankroll politicians, and they write the rules, and you know that they win no matter who wins, right or left. You know that they're the ones getting the checks. They're laughing at how stupid we are. So let's stop with the doom and gloom for a second here, and let me just kind of bring this back. If you strip away all of the slogans, all the hashtags, the little talking points of the media, what do regular people want? What do regular people, you and your neighbors, even the people that voted differently than you? We want our kids safe. We want a roof that doesn't leak. We want food in the fridge. We want a job that doesn't crush our frickin' soul. And we want some goddamn honesty from the people who claim to represent you, to represent us. And guess what? That guy that you don't like with the bumper sticker down the street, he wants the same thing. The woman with the MAGA hat at the grocery store that you thought was an idiot, she wants the same thing. The mom who is too busy working 3 jobs to even care about politics, she wants the same thing too. But what do they not show you on TV? What is the one thing? It's that you have that much in common with the people who voted different than you. They will never show you that. They show you the screaming protester with the purple hair threatening to burn a bunch of stuff down. They show you this red-faced conspiracy guy spitting at the camera talking about crazy stuff. They show you the absolute fringe because fringe pisses you off. Fringe makes you hateful and angry. Fringe makes you think that the other half of the country has lost its freaking mind.
This is just mindless equivocation where we pretend that everything is the exact same. I don't want to hold hands and sing Kumbaya with the left, because most of the violence and censorship happens on their side. We don't want the same things. They want to kill the unborn. I want the unborn to live and have a chance at life. A lot of them want 4-year-old boys to be given hormones to try and change their gender. I don't. And while I agree that billionaires and tech CEOs generally are one of the main enemies of the people, I don't think they're the only ones. You may argue on a superficial level that I have more in common with my neighbor who supported Kamala Harris and had a My Body, My Choice lawn sign than I do with a rich person who believes what I believe. But on a deeper level, I have more in common with wealthy people like Charlie Kirk than I do with poor people who want to kill the unborn. Just because you're working class doesn't mean you're a good person. That's not how it works. And I don't want to have any camaraderie with a middle-class person who supports political assassination. And there is a problem of idiots who too strictly view the world through a left versus right paradigm, and I understand that. For example, I once saw somebody say that J.R.R. Tolkien, the traditionalist Catholic who was against the Second Vatican Council, was secretly some sort of enlightened liberal because he thought that the Holocaust was bad and he was against racism. But obviously he was born in Africa as a white man, and he also is a devout Roman Catholic. And Catholics have churches all over the world with people of all different races worshiping them. So, of course, they're probably not going to be as racist. Generally, as any sort of Christian, you're less likely to be racist the more devout you are. So anyway, because the terms left and right are so new, historically speaking, because they started in the French Revolution, when people try and apply them to followers of ancient institutions, it results in them saying incredibly stupid things, no matter what the institutions are. That being said, anybody in modern America who calls himself a liberal or a leftist, I can't agree with them on pretty much anything. At this point, to vote for a Democrat is a moral failing because you are supporting further propagandizing and further stupidity that will lead to people dying. I don't particularly like the Republican Party, but I'll support them because they're the less evil of the two. We as conservatives need to stop being pushovers. After all these years of them canceling innocent people, they deserve to be fired for celebrating Kirk's death. They would have before, but now they definitely do. If you support political assassination and first-degree homicide, you should not be employed. Though much of the left already isn't, so I'm not sure how effective this is actually going to be. But anyway, thank you for watching. Please pray for Charlie Kirk and his family. And if you're an atheist and you're offended by the fact that I'm telling people to pray, kiss my ass. Thank you for watching. Bye.